Fear is not the opposite of love. Doubt is. Welcome to my dojo. This is Kung Fu Pizza Party, and I'm your host, Brandon Knight, and today we are reviewing the most disappointing film of 2024, arguably the most disappointing thing to have happened over the past 30 years, if you don't count myself, and that is The Crow, starring Bill Skarsgard. And you did hear me correctly, listeners. I did say we, because we have a guest here on the show today. She is one of Instagram's favorite bookstagrammers. She is my wife, Claire. Claire, welcome to this show.
Hello.
She never knows how to do that part, the intro part. She's just, hi. I don't know why he always has to do a weird intro for me. Today we're going to be talking about The Crow, the remake of the classic Brandon Lee film, which was inspired by a comic book written by James O'Barr back in the late 80s, if I remember correctly. This movie stinks. There's nothing. There's very little good that we can say about this movie. But let's just start at the beginning. Here at Kung Fu Pizza Party, Claire, we're delivering high-flying action in 30 minutes or less. So all thrills, no fills. So we just get right to it here. So it's been a minute since we've seen the movie. Try and put yourself back in that place. Sorry, I have to make you go back into that place. How are you feeling going into the movie versus how you were coming out of the theater?
I was cautiously trying to be hopeful. I was like, maybe this will not be too bad. Maybe it'll at least be like an entertaining movie and it'll, honor the original movie well or something. I don't know. I thought it was gonna be okay. And it wasn't. And I'm not sure if it'll ever be okay again.
I don't know if it'll ever be okay again either. This was a hard one for me because how much this original movie means to me. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about the movie, the original with Brandon Lee, probably closer to my birthday because it is one of my favorite movies. But I wanted this movie to do well. I wanted it to be good. I did, because I didn't want to be the old guy who, it's like the Star Wars thing. I didn't want to be the old guy who's like, everyone's complaining, you're just stuck in your ways and nostalgia. You got to be okay with change. I was going to be okay with change. And they did change things. Those changes were bad. They were bad changes. And the movie just in general was a bad movie. The acting was bad. The dialogue was worse. The CGI was somewhere in the middle. Like, it was rough through and through. You picked up on how bad the dialogue was, like, immediately.
Everything that the main girl said, like, from the beginning was just like, oh my God, who taught you how people talk? Like, is this how you talk in real life? Like, she sounded like she was like I get that they were supposed to be like drug addicts, but like she just sounded like she was trying to act like she was high. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, how when like a person who like has never done drugs at all who's like, oh my God, and they've got their eyes half closed and they're, you know what I mean? Like it was like she was an alien doing a play about a high person, but she didn't actually ever she'd never actually seen a person who was high. She'd only ever heard about it. Anyway, but moment it was done for me, and it was not too far into the movie that it was done for me. They're, first of all, met each other in a psych ward.
It was like a prison asylum, like Arkham Asylum or something like that, but super bougie. It was so nice.
Yeah. And they were all wearing pink sweatsuits. I don't know. Anyway, so they escape. They do not know each other at all. Like, he helps her escape. And
Wait. You did not do that part right. They escaped far too easily.
Oh yeah.
It was
they
this
just
like
climbed out a window. He was like, "Oh yeah, I know how to escape. Let's go climb out the window." And then they climbed out the window and it was over. It was like, first of all, why were you waiting so long to do that? Anyway, so then they go back to her friend's apartment with this weirdest freaking furniture I've ever seen in my life.
I did not pay attention to the furniture.
Furniture was super, super weird. Anyway, and then they just start banging. And it's just like an awkwardly long sequence of them doing it and all this stuff. And what I assume is not more than a day or two later, it like cuts to them on the roof or something, and they're like close together, and she goes, "How many people have you loved? Like, seriously loved?" And it's like, first of all, what kind of question is that? Also, are you implying that you are now in love? Because you've known each other for maybe 2 days.
It's bachelor rules. It's bachelor and bachelorette rules at this point.
I'm just like, this is the most cringe relationship I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's one of those ones where it's like, you know, these two people are terrible for each other, but like, you can't help but watch because everything about their relationship is going to just be a dumpster fire.
I think the reason why I didn't notice the apparently atrocious apartment furniture is because I was too distracted by how Bill Skarsgard looks. Because homeboy looked like great value Pete Davidson. He looked like if Pete Davidson and Jared Leto's Joker had a baby together. That was his look, and I hated it. But the thing, I also just like, I haven't seen all of his movies, but I have yet to see something with Bill Skarsgard in it that I actually liked. Because the other movie I've seen with him in it is The Eternals, which is the only movie in history that I've verbally heckled while we were watching it. That is the only movie that is worse than The Crow, is The Eternals. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he was supposed to be like bad boy attractive, but it wasn't it for me. I don't know.
It wasn't it for me either. So to walk you all through the plot of what this movie is, I will just do the very baseline plot that will capture this movie, the original, and the graphic novel. So basically, Eric Draven, Bill Skarsgard, and Shelley, the not high girl that Claire was talking about, are a young couple who are in love. They get involved with a group of people who have them killed. Shelley in this movie, is sent to hell because reasons. Eric ends up in what is like purgatory or limbo, some kind of like middle ground thing, where he has explained that crows are the ones who usher the souls of the living to their eternal rest. But sometimes when tragedy happens, the crow returns the soul back to the body so the body can go and find justice and get its eternal rest properly. And this is the case for Eric. He gets these super abilities. He tracks down the people who killed him. And in this movie specifically, this is also that way Shelley can be resurrected back to life. This was like something that they put in this movie that's not necessarily part of the original premises whatsoever. So that's the general plot. Yes, you have something you would like to add, dear.
I just remembered, because I'm trying to find pictures of this weird furniture to show you, but I just remembered that during that big montage where they're just like having sex and kissing, there is like an insane amount of them kissing each other through a curtain.
I did block all of that out. I did block all of those memories from my head.
Who's doing that?
No one's doing that. No one's doing that in the books you read?
No.
Good to know. So, in this attempt to do this movie that failed, we could spend all day talking about how bad it is, but we only have 30 minutes. So I want to talk about 3 things that they did in this movie real quick that I liked the idea of, but it was still poorly executed. So, number 1, you actually just talked about. I actually did like the kissing through the curtains. No, I actually did like that they tried to come up with a backstory to how Eric and Shelley met. That's expanding the universe. That's never really been done in previous attempts. As you have already covered, it didn't go well. Did that matter to you at all? Or did you kind of like the other version of like through context and flashbacks, we just know they really love each other?
I think that, I don't know, because I feel like they tried to do it way too fast, I feel like, in this one. Like, it didn't seem plausible that they were really that truly, like, deeply in love. And, like, I don't know how much time passes between when they first meet and when they die, but, like, it just doesn't seem like enough time. Like, it doesn't seem like a true, deep, lasting love. It just seems like he's infatuated with her, or they're infatuated with each other. And so it just seems like a really super unhealthy relationship.
Versus what is portrayed, especially in the Brandon Lee movie, as a very pure, innocent love. Mm-hmm. That's like the cool contrast, is you have this very like goth vibe throughout that Brandon Lee movie, but you get Shelley and Eric's love for each other is very pure and very just like deep.
Yeah. And in this movie, they're just doing drugs and humping in the club. Like, I guess there's that one point where they're camping with these random friends.
Question mark.
I don't, like, that confused me too, because I was like, oh, you guys literally broke out of like a rehab mental institute prison and now you're just going camping?
And no one's ever looking for them, by the way.
And there's like no explanation as to who these friends are. Like, they're like running away like, I don't know, like it's too much.
The other second thing that I liked the idea of, still not great on the execution, was the purgatory limbo sequences. I liked that they had this place where Eric could learn what's going on, what are his abilities, what's at stake here. I kind of like that there was this introduction of this neutral zone thing.
In the original Crow? I haven't seen the original Crow movie in a while.
It's not, and I'm pretty sure it's not in the book either. There, the CGI was atrocious. That was like watching a DC movie. It was bad.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked that. I thought that was a good expansion of things. Still just not greatly executed. The third thing was updating the villains. Because of when the book and the original movie come out, what you have is very stereotypical depictions of gang members. Yeah. This is all gang violence in the original takes on this. Mm-hmm. Here they updated it. That part I liked. Again, in execution, it was Gen Z's favorite villain, the rich old white guy, who, by the way, also made a deal with the devil, so he has a superpower. cool, and a bunch of nameless henchmen with guns. Those were the bad guys now.
Yeah. I just remember sitting there and I was like, because I didn't rewatch Brandon Lee's Crow movie before I went and saw this, I was like, did I just space this out that this happens in the... Like, I don't remember this happening at all. I don't remember this guy having powers to speak devil words into people and then control them.
Yeah, no, it's because it didn't happen. Yeah. It's actually, when it comes to the bad guys, the story is very grounded. Eric's not. The whole superpower thing with Eric and the resurrection stuff, like, that's not very grounded at all. That's all very supernatural. But the villains they are just bad people. Mm-hmm. And I really liked what you said. I don't know if you remember this. As we're driving home and I'm just like sitting there in silence processing this dumpster fire. You said with the villains, it actually would have made more sense if they were more like white collar criminals. And maybe this was like they were going to do a heist and Eric and Shelley like somehow through reasons found out about the plan and ruined it. So they put a hit on them and that's how they get killed.
Yeah, or something. Or even if you wanted to stay with like the drugs thing, they could have been like, there are like high-end drug lords, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I don't know, or even I don't know, like they could have been like just like this corrupt person and something. I don't know, like it just felt like it could have been like a like white collar crime, I feel like.
Yeah, and as soon as they showed who the main bad guy was, I was like, okay, I can see what demographic we're trying to pull in here, because it's...
I mean, he did look like a bad guy, but more so in just like you just seem like gross and predatory type of thing, because he's like inviting them over to their house and he just like looked like he wanted to like... I don't know, rape people. I don't know, like just take advantage of young girls. Like, I don't know. He was gross.
He was gross. Speaking of gross, by way, this is a show about combat in movies, and by way of like combat in this movie, there actually wasn't much. It was a lot of running and gunning, just people like shooting at each other. There was one scene, and I speak, of course, of the Opera House staircase scene. Claire, if I remember correctly, this almost gave you an anxiety attack? Is that what you said?
I mean, probably.
Yeah, so in the third act of the movie, we finally have like full Crow. Bill Skarsgard, he's got the jacket, he's got the face paint on, he's ready to go, he knows where the bad guy is, he's at this opera. So this whole sequence is going to be him going up this staircase, beating off all of the minions to go then get the big bad guy. Oh, by the way, as he's walking out the door, he grabs a katana. And for some weird reason in my head, after sitting through this terrible film, I think to myself, well, maybe this will finally be the redeeming moment for this movie. Maybe here they got like some good choreography and they're going to send it home with a great, like, no, they did not. They did not send it home with any great choreography. This was just bad. This was just gore for the sake of gore. He is hacking away at people. There's blood everywhere. Limbs are getting cut off. And the shot that I'm pretty sure this whole scene was devoted to make happen, at some point he gets stabbed with the sword and then proceeds to stab somebody while the sword is still inside of him. I'm pretty sure this whole scene happened just so they could get that visual. It was rough. Do you want to say anything here?
I mean, I just felt like
Processing.
First of all, mentally scarring. Yeah, it just seemed like there was no finesse to it, and like this isn't just like, I didn't come to this movie to see a slasher hack, film, like there are certain movies where like you go in and it's just going to be blood and gore for the sake of gore because that's what you paid to see. But like, I paid to see at least some semblance of a martial arts movie, kind of. And I just felt like it was like, hey, he's just going to go in there with his sword that, first of all, how does he even know how to use? And
he doesn't, based off of the fight.
Swinging it around, I guess. Yeah, I guess he doesn't know how to use it, but it's like, you're just, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I could have done a better job killing those people.
And before you think anything about Claire, I do want to go to bat for her here and say, one of her favorite film series is Scream. So she's no lightweight when it comes to, like, blood and gore and violence when in the movie. Okay, you have your limits, we know that, I know that, but you've seen plenty of stabbing in a movie before.
Yeah, and like it just seemed like it had no purpose, and it wasn't what the film, I don't feel like it honored what The Crow was supposed to be, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, there was none of that here. This movie even did Easter eggs poorly. I only saw like one.
They didn't even do the line, the famous line.
It can't rain all the time. No, they did not do that line.
Like, how do you make a remake and just, I guess the Spider-Man movies have been doing it, have been screwing up with great power comes great responsibility.
They love shoving that in wherever they can.
But it's not even just the line, just say the line. But they're like, well, you see, sometimes people are given these powers that are more than it seems that they could handle. And because of that, they should then treat it with great care because we have to be responsible with the things that we're given. Like, it's like,
true.
Just say, with great power comes great responsibility. But there wasn't even like that. There wasn't even just like someday it'll stop raining or something, like something. There wasn't even anything close. I mean, it did rain quite a bit in the movie, but like, hello.
I liked, going back to the bloody hallway or staircase scene, I liked the word you used there of finesse, because I'm going to get super nitpicky here of all things, but because of the nature of this show, this is the thing I'm going to get super nitpicky on. If you remove the sword and you give Eric a bat, nothing changes other than he can't get stabbed and then stab somebody.
That was the only reason it was a sword instead of a bat.
But that's when that's like the main thing here is that when it comes to sword fighting, and maybe this is just me, but I have this expectation in my mind that in a sword fight, there's a level of, like you said, finesse, a level of elegance, maybe without, you know what I mean? There's a sophistication, I'm expecting a little bit of, good footwork, the whole thing. He is just hacking away at people.
Right.
And
give him an axe if you want him to have a sharp object.
Like, as I was thinking about it, like a butcher's knife is probably more suiting for this scene. If you want some like hack fest here at the end.
Machete.
Or a machete, not a sword, not a katana. Like,
right, like this is not just like some random weapon. Like, these are used for very specific things, and there's skill required to use them and to wield them properly and to make it look good while you're doing it.
We are coming in for a landing here on this episode as we're closing in on the 25-minute mark here. So a couple rapid fire things just to start sending us home. The one line that did actually stand out in my head that was worth talking about is the one I opened the show with. Although the single best part of this whole dumpster fire is when, after Eric killed a bunch of people, he's sitting there smoking a cigarette. He sticks it in one of the corpse's mouth and says, "Hold this for me." That was, I laughed really hard at that.
That was the only good, funny part. Oh, and then he when we're talking about this opera scene, we got to talk about how he chopped out those people's head and just threw them into the crowd, essentially traumatizing all of these innocent people who had nothing to do with Shelley's death. Anyway.
So at one point, this line is said that fear is not the opposite of love. Doubt is. Is doubt the opposite of love? Confused look on face.
No, I don't know. Like, that just seemed like, because I know the whole thing was if you doubt your love for her, then
he loses the powers.
But I'm just this is a huge thing. I feel like it's totally a normal human thing to doubt what we're doing, and I don't think that means that I don't love that person. I mean, there's definitely days, on hard days, where I'm oh my God, I got married and had a kid. What did I get myself into? I should not have done this. I'm way in over my head. But then I'm that doesn't mean I don't love you and that I don't love Cooper. There are just hard days and days where it's a more conscious decision to love somebody. And I don't think that makes that love any less valuable.
I think if you're just a person who can't handle, if you're a person who's just not, has trust issues, so you're just doubting all the time, then I think, sure, there's a little bit of an argument to be made there. Apparently there's a lot of takes on what the opposite of love is. I did a quick Google search. Fear is one of them, kind of comes up more in the Christian circles. Fear, this movie brings up doubt. The actual dictionary antonym is hate. Also, indifference or apathy comes up a lot too.
I feel like anytime somebody brings up something that is the opposite of love, they're just trying to get really philosophical, because the opposite of love is literally hate. If you don't love you know what I mean? The exact opposite. There can be other counters to love or things that aren't compatible with love. Sure. But just, it's not that deep.
You heard it here first, folks. It's not that deep. Claire, we got to wrap this up. So real quick for you. I don't do star ratings. I don't do 1 through 10. Too arbitrary. I'm sure the Rotten Tomatoes score is wonderful for this movie. Here's what I say, okay? Would you watch it again?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Which leads to the second question. Would you buy a physical media copy of this?
Absolutely not.
So I also would not buy a physical copy of this. Even if I went and got all the other sequels, I still would not. And I'm a completionist. I have to have everything in order to feel like I did something with my life. Would I watch it again? I would be willing to watch it one more time now that the bar is on the floor, just so that way I can see it from a different perspective. Especially if someone's I didn't think it was that bad for reasons XYZ. If someone could do that, which I doubt, I don't know if there's a single person on the planet that actually liked this movie.
Even saw this movie.
Our future sister-in-law went and saw it with us, and she literally said afterwards, I don't get it. That was her take. So I would be willing to watch it again now that the bar's on the floor. But no, I'm not buying a copy of this. Claire, we got to get out of here. So where can the people find you if they want some more Bookstagram stuff in their life?
Claire Brooks .reads books on Instagram. Goodreads and Storygraph. And I guess technically TikTok, but I don't really post TikToks.
And Threads, right?
And Threads, but I don't post Threads.
Never mind. And as for this show, you can follow it on Instagram as well at Kung Fu Pizza Party. And please, if you haven't yet already, rate and review this show. But please, thank you. And share this episode with a friend who needs to be warned not to watch this movie ever. Please don't do it. We'll be back. I'll be back next week with another review. I think it'll be a little bit more of a spooky season review. I watched a very traumatizing movie while Claire was asleep the other day, so we'll be talking about that. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't watch this one. There's several things you would not have liked about it. It was pretty good, though. I thought it was pretty good, but you would not have been able to sleep through it. Anyway, this has been Kung Fu Pizza Party, where we just about delivered high-flying action in 30 minutes or less. We're going to be coming in a little over the bar this time, but that's okay. It's okay. I love you, baby. This was fun. And delivering high-flying action in 30 minutes or less and serving up wisdom one slice at a time. Thanks for listening.